Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/come to where I'm from. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated.
Speaking of the man,
He's got, let me see what he's got. Let's see what this Jesse Malin guy's got. I retweeted one, this Your Voice. Net worth $1 billion. It says $1 billion. Is that true? $1 billion?
Does it say that?
That seems high. Your net worth, $1 billion.
Wow, maybe I'll get laid.
I mean, dude, it seems high, but okay.
I don't even have a savings. I'm not going to say it on the show, but people will be shocked at how fucking broke I am.
Right, because you're a boss. We were just saying you're a boss.
I don't know. I don't have big record money. Like, I get those mail checks once in a while.
before that, Come to Where I'm From, episode 87.
Jesse Malin,
With Jesse Malin.
first
who
repeat guest.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
This is a breakthrough.
86 episodes later, here he is again.
No, oh yeah.
But it's almost been a year to
episode 87, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in the hot box.
Yeah. It should be, it feels open. We're here at City Vineyard in the back patio.
Thank you to City Vineyard for letting
But,
us use the space. Support City Winery. They still sell wine and drinks out of the front door.
And support Jesse's clubs, of which there are quite a few. Mayor of the Lower East Side, Jesse Malin.
Oh, no.
Sorry to give you that title, but
Somebody once said that in the paper or something. It was a long time ago, but...
I must have stolen it.
Joe wrote a song about it.
Yeah, I know. I like the song a lot. But I thought it was about someone else, but,
Nah.
But I don't want to get embarrassed, but thank you. It is a beautiful record. So.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
What's the thing with this? Your voice matters. Tell your legislators to save independent music venues. Is that?
That's to write the Senate and write to the senator and let them know that, we're the first to close the live music venues and we'll be the last to open the bars and the live music venues, and that it's, places are not going to survive. The Troubadour is possibly going to close. So many great venues, Great Scott in Boston just closed, where, they need real support. It's a big part, especially in New York with the arts. People come to this city, or used to anyway, to see live music, to connect, to go to Broadway, to go to off-Broadway plays, and all that kind of stuff is something, I guess, not looked at as an essential, but I think it's a big part of the human heart, and the experience. So.
That's crazy, because don't you think during this whole time, this quarantine, 3 months or whatever we've been on, that music has taken a front seat again, though, in people's lives?
I think that
in a
there's
weird way,
a lot more attention paid to it in a simple way. Like, some people were bummed, like, oh, I got to put a record out at this time, and I had a single coming out, and I noticed that people need it.
Yeah.
And that they're paying attention, and they're really listening and maybe watching the video or even the live streams, even though it's a lot of it. It's pretty oversaturated, but I think people realize how important music is. And when you see that Save Our Stages and you see how people are responding, the fans, you see they really want it, and they really, and a lot of our fans that we share, I think it's part of their daily bread, their intake that they need to sustain their blood.
It's like a family that happens, isn't it?
It's a religion, it's our church, I think, that's really it. People have the right to go to a church and do this stuff, but this is the religion we grew up with, and we all worship it in different ways, but it's still under that same, roof,
Are you like an Episcopalian or a Baptist in rock and roll, or what
Oh,
are
I
you?
don't
What are
know.
you? What's your rock and roll?
I believe in something, that there is some kind of higher power, something more spiritual. I don't believe in a organized religion or a God, that some person looking down and all that. I believe that there's, just look at us naturally. There's so much beauty in so many things, and then there's really dark stuff. But you're a person that I look to, and you, from your social media, you're very optimistic, and you worship your body, and you use art and creativity and music and painting as a healing, as a life expression. And I think that's something, when people follow you, I think they get a lot out of that. Seeing, just the other day you posted a picture and you're just smiling, and I'm like, this is, I don't know if I would just do that right now, if I could do that, but Joseph's doing that, and that feels fucking great.
Yeah, well, my friend took that photo, and I just and then I just decided, I just feel like putting out optimism and light right now is what we should be trying to do. There's so much despair in the world, and there's so much to truly be, I think, afraid about right now.
And I'm a big planner. Like since I was a little kid, I'd write something in a notebook in junior high school. Like, I want to play at Max's July 15th, and manifesting things, and like, we're going to do this, and we're going to play the Garden, and like, putting that out there. But I also feel that in this time, I've taken a page out of listening to my friends who've gotten sober, talking some of the great things that are said in the 12-step program, though I do drink and stuff, but the idea of one day at a time, and that you can't go too forward. And people say, when are the clubs opening? When are you going back on tour? When is the new record? When are you going to the studio? It's like, well, I have no control. I don't think the people in control, that's supposedly in control, fully know. So you have to kind of let this thing just be and go day by day. So
yeah,
at least I'm trying,
Yeah, you are really good at manifesting stuff. I see you I mean, it's like, I don't know. I see you manifest your career, I guess, in a way that's very inspiring. Like creating success and great albums, and just also creating opportunities for people around you.
Yeah, well, I always like to treat people the way that I would like to be treated, and it's really important, and I didn't come from a big family and don't have much of a family now, but I always felt that the people I met through this community, and some of my old friends, I'm friends with people for 30, 40 years, and that's been my family. And same thing with the music community. I always say that you go on the road, you make like a pirate ship, your van, your tour bus, you put the people you want to be with on that thing, and you go around the world, and they represent you. And you got people like Harry, my guitar tech, sometimes now filmmaker, or Stick, or Mark, or Jillian, and these people that, that they get the sense of humor, and you just want to live with them, but also kind of be an example of how people can operate together. And that family is something I really value. My musicians, the people I've played with over the years, we all know there's a lot of dicks in fucking music, and, a lot of jerks with big egos. And it's good when you get a
I'm
good
one
bunch.
of them half the time.
And I am too.
In my mind, I was pointing the two.
I knew you were. That's why I said it.
No. How is Harry doing? Because Willie Nile told me
He's doing good. He's feeling
sick.
healthy. Yeah, no, he's all right. He's getting all through it. I think, a lot of people have been getting different strains of this thing. Some people not. Some people wish they did, I think, maybe. But he's good. I felt bad for him because this film, Faraway Eyes, which it's his second film with Christina Ricci, and it's a great script. And Harry Greenberger, if you guys don't know, he's my old guitar tech and stage manager, but always went to film school for that. He did the video for Disco Ghetto for me, which is a song I had 10 years ago. And Mary Louise Parker was the waitress in it. She acted in it with my friend Paulie from Sheer Terror. And she loved Harry so much, she said, if you ever direct a film, just call me up. I loved working with you on this video.
Wow.
So he went home that night and he wrote a script, which was Faraway Eyes.
That's
and
awesome.
while he was waiting for
That's
her
how
to
much you
get
like
free, while I was waiting for her to, free up her time because she had a lot of other work commitments, he was waiting. So he wrote another script, which was Staring at the Sun, and it's a film about two Hasidic girls in Brooklyn, Orthodox Hasids, that escape the Hasidic community and go on a road trip. I called it Thelma and Jewies, but I think this Unorthodox might have ripped it off. That's on Amazon. So now, finally, Faraway
really?
Eyes, the film that he wrote 10 years ago with Mary Louise, ended up being with Christina Ricci and some other folks, and that was about to come out. And just like many of us, you got to sit back and take a deep breath and drink a kombucha and, think about the next, what's going to be, the next meal.
Yeah. I was thinking today, I was listening to something, and I wrote a poem about it, actually. It's like... that youth isn't dependent on your body or your age. It's dependent on your goals. Like, so if you have a goal, if you have a dream that you're going towards, that's youthful. That's like the spirit of youth, And when I think of you, I feel like, I think you're probably more like younger right now than you probably have ever been, seemingly. I'm getting to know you more and more, but it seems to me like you hit some momentum with Sunset Kids, and you got a lot of success and love from that, and that now you're rolling with that even further, and it feels like you're on a trajectory towards, I don't know, just like some of your best work. And
that's
the
really
new
nice.
single, too.
I'm really proud of that record, and it's actually done the best out of all my records, maybe since the first one, but maybe even better. But I'm still hungry, and I still feel like a kid. And same things we were doing. We were 14, waiting for the van to get here. And is there beer? And are you in tune? And let's get a jacket. And how's the crowd tonight? And those things. And I interviewed. Took a page out of your book, or everybody. I was doing.
Everybody
interviews.
takes everybody's book.
Yeah, I was actually doing these with John Varvatos for a while, and I didn't really want to get into this. I don't enjoy interviewing people, which is maybe we could talk about that after. But I interviewed Jimmy G from Murphy's Law, and he says I get scared as hell to go on stage every night, and the day that I don't get scared, is the day it's all over for me. And I don't always get nervous, but I do like the excitement. As a kid, I was an adrenaline junkie. I loved roller coasters. And maybe going up to somebody that you want to talk to, even a girl or somebody, and you're nervous and you have to really step up. And then going on stage, it feels like you're very much alive, like that first drop on the Cyclone, wow, we're here right now, But I'm happy with this record, and I was excited to tour for, another, I guess, 6 months we had booked. And we came home. We just got out. We were on a tour of England. We came home
in March
14th.
Yeah, I wanted to ask
We got
you.
out right before it was closing out of the UK.
Right.
Well,
Left
we were,
Heathrow.
Ehud and I
called me.
we were talking about y'all. Like, we were like on the phone, like, is Jesse going to make it out? Because I was looking at, we were looking at your tour schedule. I was like, dude, he's over there for a while,
when
when this hit.
The close of Europe,
Yeah.
So we were
still
thinking
out.
about you.
And it was a really good tour, maybe the best. For first time in a while, we were selling everything out and getting that back end money. That's always nice when the tour does better than expected. And we were about to be in Europe, and it was I think next month I was going to be at Glastonbury with Diana Ross and Primal Scream on the Strummer
For
stage.
real?
But yeah, it was a couple shows there.
Fuck's sake, dude, that's
But
awesome.
it'll all come back. But we were there, and we were getting the news, and it was a lot worse in the States, and we were looking at our phones in the van, and I was like, look, do you want to go? Do you want to finish this? And everybody felt like, let's finish this out. But in the UK at the time, it wasn't as bad. People were still, these British dudes were still trying to shake my hand every night, and I was like doing the elbows, and it didn't seem as wild until, even at the airport in Heathrow, not a lot of people were masked. When we landed in America, and I got back to Avenue A, and the city, everyone was freaking out about toilet paper, and everything was shut down. Thought that weekend was scary and wacky, and then it would get worse and worse to being in Manhattan, New York proper was like Mad Max dystopian. I think, you were up the block. We didn't see each other, but I laid in for a good while and then ventured out little by little and even got into it with some people because there was nobody out after 8 o'clock except like hood rat kids on bicycles, and everyone's got masks on. So it's like the Wild West. They can get away with a lot of stuff in a pack. And luckily there wasn't many people there, but I did have a guy try to chase me, a younger guy, like 30 years old. I'll kill you. And he ran to my door.
For
it was
what?
like a movie. I just got in. I don't know,
I told you the East Side was sketchy. Like I took a walk on 2nd Ave,
Talk about walk on the
6th,
wild side.
7th, 8th Street. It was like back like New York in the 80s.
Yeah, it was definitely like that. And in some ways, I try to look at the upside of all this. I mean, I think that, there's all kinds of theories on why this happened, and we could talk about that and maybe agree or disagree or whatever. But I think it's pretty clear that our government knew about this a while before it happened. That's been proven, and didn't, react or care and do anything. And I think that we could have been set up for it. And now we're in this place, and, it's definitely a time that I never thought in my life. It's something, our generation, I guess we had September 11th, and I was in New York for that. And we've had, I guess Watergate when I was a little kid, and blackouts and stuff, and Iraq and the end of Vietnam. But, people that lived through World War II, or I guess that Spanish flu, you have 1918, but then came the Roaring 20s. So, New York, all these places we love, everything does get destroyed and then has to come back. And it's hard. It's really hard.
It's really difficult.
But this is worldwide, so it makes you feel like, at least we're in this together in a way. Like, I always go on stage and say rock music, this unifies us. We're the Doctors Without Borders. Like, if you're traveling, I hope that's not the deadly hornet that's flying around here.
Yeah, the murder hornet.
I read like a thing about the murder hornet.
Release
they said
the
it's
murder
like a
hornets.
boiling
I kept my eye
hot.
on that guy.
It's like someone pressing a boiling hot tack into you or something.
Really?
I don't know, but
You see The Simpsons, that they go like they looking for a placebo for the virus, and then they kick over the van, and out comes the killer bees.
the next.
Just they always predict the future. The Simpsons, anyway. But
They know something.
Sorry,
yeah.
what were you saying though?
But the whole world's in this together, and that's
Right.
in some ways comforting. In some ways, it feels like, wow, we need another planet, and we get the hell out of here. But people will be resilient, and I think that you can't get so crazy where you lose your sanity, and you lose. We need light, we need love, we need to express ourselves, and then I guess the financial ruin of that for so many people.
That's
more
what I'm worried
unemployment
about.
than the depression. More death than Vietnam. I think there's a lot of that where people, I've felt
Suicides.
it. Yeah.
Suicide and addiction way up. You
Yeah.
know.
Relapses.
Unemployment at 30 million, I guess. 100,000
They left
small.
liquor stores open. That was essential.
100,000 small businesses closed.
I thought we came here to tell jokes here and kind of like a couple of guys eating lunch like Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner here.
We can. I mean, we don't have to get heavy.
But
but what I'm worried about is like the thing like in LA where now the numbers are coming in, and I'm not a doctor and stuff like that and all that, but like from and there's so many different news sources, and you can have like figures from one side of the argument to figures of the other side of the argument, and they contradict each other. So it's really hard to like, feel your way through all this. But from what I'm seeing is the numbers are going like, okay, this is on par with basically a bad flu season in terms of mortality rates. And now LA, who hasn't even been affected by this as deeply as New York, and my heart goes out to everybody that has been affected by that. That's not what I'm saying. And it's like really sensitive to even talk about all this stuff. But when they say they're going to close again for another 3 more months, it's like, man, when are you going to factor in like letting people have their jobs back and like earning a living? And then if like people that are elderly and with comorbid conditions can stay isolated, and we do this safely, but allow people to start earning a living again. You know what I mean? Like that conversation. And it goes with clubs and music and stuff like that, letting people like play music shows again, and just to keep their souls alive and keep the soul of America alive that way,
I mean, on a personal level, it's really frightening to, maybe 15 years ago, I don't know the exact time, what we do, recorded music, records, albums, what we grew up on became worthless for the most part. I mean, there's iTunes, but most people get the music free.
Yeah.
We don't get paid. It's like if I told you to do paintings and just give them out for free.
Exactly.
And it's cool and everyone's doing it. Do 20 paintings. I'll put them all over Paint Tunes or whatever.
Right.
And, spot of paint, whatever. And it's all free,
No, I know.
So that was kind of a new way to adjust. So they said, well, the new model will be you go on the road and you'll make your money in merch and you'll make it playing live.
Right.
Well, now that's gone. And this is what I've done my whole life since I'm 13, and you as well, and so many of us.
Right.
Yeah, we get mail money. Stuff gets played on stations, but not every artist has had that much of
Not every artist gets lucky like that.
Yeah, and you don't always know what's in those quarterly checks. And there isn't anything to really set that up. So that is pretty nuts. And I have been thinking about it. I started to do my management and my team encouraged me to try live streams from the house.
Yeah.
And I just I don't want to be some guy moaning into a laptop with acoustic guitar, another acoustic guitar. Like, it's going to be so bad. And I fought them, and then I said, all right, I have no choice because, one, if I do this, I could pay my band. If we get some donations, I could pay them for the tour they lost. They lived day to day, week to week. My crew, I heard everything that was going on. Nobody was planning for this. And even the bars and myself. So I went up and I just played, and I tried to make it into where I stood up and had a little bit of a microphone and brought some things from my house and tried to make it like a kiddie show, like the Uncle Floyd show or Mr. Rogers with like
somebody said
songs.
Mr. Rogers,
Rolling Stone said that or something. But and I do a show and tell, and then I come out as my friend Bob Strauss, that character, and and so I made it into a thing. It's called the Fine Art of Self-Distancing, and we started doing it every week. Did like 7 of them.
Yeah.
And
don't sell yourself short. Rolling Stone said
best live stream.
Yeah, they said one of the best streamed performances of the stay-at-home.
And Entertainment Weekly said something nice.
Yeah, Entertainment Weekly was really. We got a couple good bits on it. Like really, like wow, And I'm not like a virtuoso as a solo guy, but I could tell some stories, and that's how the songs are written. So it is in your apartment. It is a pure thing, but to do it every week. So I tried to change it up, did requests, dedications, did covers, and it got fun. And what I got was that my fan base worldwide They're really loyal. There was people that could see me in Australia and South Africa and other places I hadn't been in a while, and it connected them in the chatter, and there was some community there, and it was really touching, and I was really to be able to help out a lot of stuff with it.
Yeah.
So that ended the first season, and now I'm thinking about doing a second one. We're actually in the works of doing a second season starting May 23rd, and where I'll do it, I'm going to go down to the basement of this woman I know who I'm partners with at other clubs, owns this place that's Berlin and 2A, and they're letting me use the basement to go down there and just try to set up in there and take the show to a better sonic level. Maybe I'll have some guests virtually.
That's a good idea.
And then people, once it's set up, other artists can go in there. So to go beyond that, when I was, I guess, in my late 20s or mid-20s, I had this fantasy to have like Rock and Roll High School meets Max's Kansas City, and I took my record money from D-Generation, like I told you, from Columbia, and with some other people opened Coney Island High Club in St. Mark's Place. I went on tour. I didn't know what I was doing. We lost money. People had a blast. We broke all the rules. We got closed for dancing from the mayor, Giuliani, at that time, quality of life, cabaret laws. And so I opened a little bar with Johnny T and my friend Laura called Niagara. And it was like 22 years ago, just a little Sinatra kind of spot just for fun for us. And it turned out to be something. And then in time, we decided we wanted another live venue. We wanted to do it right. So then came Bowery Electric and a few others. And so it was always something I could give my friends jobs. I could have a place to play, even rehearse. My friends could paint in the basement. Like, stuff could be.
Jesse, let me paint in the basement.
And when you're not on the road, your tour manager could work there and be the liquor guy or the man. Like, so it became a big part. And suddenly those places kind of took on their own energy with people we didn't know. And at first it was just our friends.
Mm-hmm.
And now with those all closed, the rents are so high in New York, you know.
So what's the conversation about those? When are they projecting y'all are going to be able to reopen, and how? And how is there insider conversations along those lines?
Well, they keep changing that. If you listen to Governor Cuomo, who was very comforting in the times of Trump and all the other madness watching the news, the first few weeks I watched him a lot, and I felt that he was doing his job as a professional, and it seemed.
But he's got controversy now with the whole elderly and the old folks homes.
Changed.
I mean, it's like it's shifted dramatically with him. He was coming off as a hero at first, and now he's become a villain in a way.
Well, that's
or whatever.
a politician.
Yeah.
But he, just to say, not even to get him what do you
or
think
no,
of him.
and by the way, I said that too black and white because I can tell people are going to be like, fuck you, dude. I can't believe you said that. But you know what I mean. I'm just like.
He's a politician.
I'm speaking with big crayons right there,
Him
okay?
and
I know there's subtleties.
His father and Trump, they came together. They grew up together. They were buds, I'm sure. All that's very close. But
anyway.
Well, if you listen to what he's saying in the state of New York, they're saying that, we're like group 4, I think group 5. I think group 4 is restaurants, and group 5 will be live music.
Right.
So that could be, they don't know when that is.
Group 4 is restaurants, group 5 is...
The last I heard,
Well, group 1 is open now, and that's construction. Group 2 is going to be...
construction in liquor stores?
Well, that's always been open.
That's essential liquor stores, they said. That's an essential.
So alcoholics it is,
But
and I get that because I used to be
phase-
one of those.
Second phase is going to be service providers, doctors, dentists.
Like urgent cares and all
something
that.
like that.
Oh, so is Suzette going back to...
maybe in 2.
All right,
3.
so
I don't know what 3 is.
That might be retail, maybe
be
in
retail,
shops. It might be
yeah.
clothing.
Like Target's already open.
Target's never
And
closed.
Walmart.
Those never closed.
Which
Yeah.
is weird.
They
It's
had
a
food.
corporate handshake.
No, they sold.
Walmart is also
Listen, I buy my
an
food at
anagram
Target.
for martial law.
I
Mart law, Walmart. Anyway, just saying.
But it's either 4 or 5.
It's last.
Restaurants,
We both know it's
the last, and
Yeah.
restaurants will come before.
Yeah.
And then they're talking at 25% capacity.
That's,
so if
That's
you want to get
nuts.
into
Then
this,
how do you keep the rent? How does
well, the
how
rents
does
aren't
Laura
going to
keep them
change.
going?
And a lot of people think, well, fuck the landlords. They should do this. But some of these landlords are people like you and me that have to pay mortgages. It ain't like a punk rock song every time. Like, these people will have worked with us a little bit the first month. Some of them, some didn't. And the rents are super high. And if we don't pay up, they could get somebody else in some of these spots because people, when they go into a new business, they expect to lose money the first 5, 6, 7 months. That happens, And if you got a hot location, so the places I opened up, I still am in New York City with my partners, and those are high primetime crazy rents. So to make those places happen before they even put employees in and open it up, the numbers are whack.
Yeah.
And even if we get money, which we're hoping to get something, to help us out through, from funding, PPP loans or whatever, it would be maybe, unless we can have people in there, a Band-Aid where, maybe we'll get through a couple months. But if they let us open whenever, July, August, September, November, and then they say 25%, that's like a bad night. The way we had to run these
You
clubs,
lose money on
you
that.
needed shows to be crowded. You needed the dance party to be off the hook because you have a staff, you have rent, you just the rent and insurance and tax alone. So it's really freaking scary to think that, we could look good for a little while and this and that, but even the vibe of doing 25% for the artists might have to play like 2 sets. We might have to have tables and have people ordering food. No offense to the wonderful City Winery, they do it great. We don't never, we give people a hot pretzel and a kick in the balls. It's like
It's insane.
Yeah,
I love that picture you posted with Kerouac looking in there.
Well, I was just trying to give some hope and history to it.
Dude,
that
I love
photo
that.
is a photo that Ginsberg shot, developed it on Avenue A at the candy store, and it's Jack Kerouac looking into a bar that's now Niagara, and bars get grandfathered. They, Pyramid was a bar 100 years ago. Like bars come where bars are because of the laws with churches and schools. So it still looks like it could be one of our friends, like looking in there, But
I know,
it's
it's
a
funny,
wild
isn't it?
time to think. So then they open the places, and
It's
then
funny
you're
to
at-
think we're future legends like that. Even Ehud.
I'll see you at Ehud's Naropa Institute up in Inwood. We'll all be telling stories, the culture.
Yeah.
And then, you get tomorrow's Joe Ramone's birthday, and you know what? The
Wow.
Ramones didn't make a lot of money when they were alive, but dead, they're huge. They play them at
Yeah.
ball games or whatever, sell the T-shirts, whatever. But I think that it's going to be really, really tricky and interesting to try to figure out how to open venues. Even some of my tours overseas, they're talking about coming back, but then they're talking about half full, and then they're talking about half pay.
Yeah.
And then they're talking about the airlines being jacked up. So
Right.
you can get kind of nuts, but I'm working really hard with a few friends to try to come up with this live stream thing that could be from clubs, but not just be, like the songwriter sterile thing where there could be social distancing, separation, but also give as much of a connection, and maybe there's other guests and the community works together, and it's kind of like Sesame Street meets Jules Holland and Ron Jeremy politically correct non-gender Pacific Starbucks.
What do you think? Do you think that there's a conspiracy about people who just don't know how to have a good time trying to like fuck up everyone that does know how to have a good time? I'm kidding.
I
but,
think there's some anger. Like I think I'm not wearing the mask now, and at one point my mask
We are
was
10
sliding
feet
off.
apart.
What?
Yeah.
We are 10 feet apart.
Oh,
Just
No,
yeah,
he's
no, I
talking
know.
about
We're
outside
far,
on the
but I'm saying
street.
outside.
I had the mask slide off. I had the real mask, and it just kind of slid
Yeah.
off for a little bit while I was like walking,
get
and someone
so
came up to me
flipped out.
and just went, "What I have?" And I know maybe it's fear, but I think a lot of this stuff gives
Yeah.
people an outlet for a lot of pent up anger,
It's true.
and it's a time for compassion. It's a time to
100%. I have a mask. I've like like I've seen the memes too. It's like if you could smell a fart through jeans and like that, then a virus ain't getting stopped through a bandana. There's another meme too. It's like a guy in a hazmat suit saying, "Here's what scientists use to prevent viruses," and it's a guy like fully, because your eyes need to be covered. Everything like viruses are super tiny, and it says, "Here's what scientists use to protect themselves from viruses. But don't worry, your bandana will work too." So it's funny, and I understand that this is like kind of ridiculous. Talk about bro science, that this is not going to protect anyone really from a virus. But I do it just because, like, that's my opinion. But and from what I've
do it out of
from what-
respect.
but I
and
do
you
it
can
as
also
respect.
get arrested if you don't. But yeah,
Right, I do it for respect for other people. I was talking to my friend Greg, and he's like, "Yeah, it's about respecting your fellow man," and like, and I'm down with that.
but
So,
we
like,
don't know. That's
I-
the thing. We don't know if you can get it again, if you can give it again, if you can be a transmitter, have no symptoms.
Yeah.
We don't know. They don't know anything,
They don't know
and they'll
anything.
make their vaccine and get us hooked on that shit. And
I don't know. I just I feel like too. It's like when this first happened and we didn't know, and it was projected that there was going to be millions of deaths and the hospitals overwhelmed and everything like that. Of course, we did what we had to do, and we flattened the curve, and we sequestered ourselves for a couple months, and that's good. But that's happened.
What's
What's
next?
next? The curve is flattened, and we can't live in a state of perpetual fear for the fact that you know, like forever. Like death happened before this too.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I don't know when this is going
is-
to air, but just hitting spring in New York now, and people, living downtown are just going out and they're not wearing masks and they're doing whatever they feel because they need it. It's sanity. I get it. You need to connect. It's especially all people, but young people. I don't know how I would have been in my 20s if I would have stayed in for 8 weeks. Maybe I wouldn't have. But I'm a germaphobe, so I probably would have been scared. But I think that in a couple weeks after all this, people going out and everything, we're going to see the numbers and see if it really goes up. Hopefully the numbers are accurate and real that
Well,
we
that's the other
get.
thing.
I know I see what you're thinking, but I see the wheels. But it will get a sense. I mean, I saw it. Like we had friends that got sick from this. Like it was real. I mean,
oh no,
some
it's
were
real.
maybe older.
I have friends that got sick with it,
and we lost great people. So
definitely, I don't think it's a fake virus.
And there are a lot of friends of mine that are recently saying to me, you know what, it's going to have to be survival of the fittest. Death's always been there. It's like cancer. It's like
I don't mean it that coldly though either. I think there's because also
you're going to have to go back to living or you might starve.
Well, the effects of the continued lockdown are devastating as well, and those numbers need to get talked about. The suicides, the unemployment, the
addiction,
addiction, the death of soul, death of dreams, of all that too has to get
violence too
have to get factored into it, and the death of rock and roll clubs,
The death of rock and roll. Maybe we're going to turn into cyber folkies.
Exactly. I know we're all just a bunch of folkies
Joe,
now.
but you know what I find funny is when this first started, people turned to music right away. All those big webcasts with Eddie Vedder and Taylor Swift, but then the national conversation is not about venues and reopening and what are musicians gonna do.
Music.
Recently,
the
focus is on sports. Like everyone, the president and everyone's doing segments. How is sports coming back? And that's
you okay, dude? Murder hornets.
And that seems to be more of a concern for people than live venues, which are also a huge business.
Yeah. Well, maybe they haven't figured. Maybe they aren't thinking about it yet.
No, I'm saying no one is thinking about it.
If somebody hears about the Troubadour closing, or if somebody hears about Bowery Electric closing or something, God forbid.
I mean, I'm reading. I read about Great Scott in Boston. I'm reading about the Troubadour. It's been hanging on. I saw Bernie Taupin posted a whole bunch of people. I mean, we're trying to get the word out. We're going to get through this somehow, and rock and roll and this lifestyle and art, it's going to burn hot again, and we're going to, there's going to be some way because people just need it, and the kind of people we are, we're not going to say no, and we're going to find a way to express ourselves and to bring that out. But having to do it in these guidelines, has been making sense for a while. I was doing my shows alone and not with the band, and I see other artists, they have the groups and they're maybe 6-7 feet apart. Dropkick Murphys just announced they're going to do Fenway Park with Bruce Springsteen. I think he'll be virtual, my favorite new word, but they're going to go into Fenway and play and broadcast a stream. But we all know, I mean, it's not the same. I would go on stage for years before this and tell people, get off of YouTube, get out to a real record store, stop ordering on Amazon. Home fucking is killing real sex. But you need to get out and be part of, what was that old bit about cassettes? Home taping is killing records, and then it was like home fucking is killing prostitution. It was like, it's a joke, but there's nothing
relax everybody. Jeez.
There was nothing about better than getting together in a dark room with lots of people and being at a real show and connecting and feeling the air going through the speakers and being with strangers in that community, that church. And so it's still, I wonder, all right, this thing did happen. Did they make it in a lab? Did it happen in the wet markets? However, government flu, whatever it was, it's here. And now people are at home, and Amazon is going great, and Netflix is going great. And they got us on the little phone, and everybody's just maybe they're going to enjoy ordering the drinks in. And
programming.
There's a thing called the human connection, and there's a thing called loneliness. And, you can swipe someone and say, come over to my house, or have to have a date or whatever. But it's a lot more comfortable for people to meet in a public place where they feel safe, and there's other people around, and a different conversation strikes up. And if you don't like that person, you could leave, and you're not there's something great about being amongst humanity, and that's why I live in New York and why I travel and tour, to be around people and connect and learn something and have that live in-person experience. So I love the live stream I'm doing, but
Hallelujah.
I hate it.
What about
Yeah,
your?
you're good at
you have
it.
a show on We Are on the Air. Is that like a proper
Strauss.
podcast?
It was like just an interview thing. They'd asked me to do something. Linda Perry and Donita Sparks from L7 and a bunch of other folks were doing this thing. It's a new channel called We Are Here, and it's amazing. And so I started to do stuff, and now I think I'm going to be taking some of that, like it was an hour interview like this, and I like talking, but I don't love interviewing people all the time. So I'm going to do a small conversation at the end of my live stream, like at Berlin, that's like at the bar, kind of hanging, and a little bit shorter or a good amount shorter, and just as an extra thing. So I have a different friend join me each week. But the longer interviews I did with them, I think I did about 6 or 7, and it was great to talk like this with friends that are artists that I respect.
HR on, I saw.
And admire. The HR interview was great because he came in 20 minutes. Jimmy G had to cancel. And I called HR, and I was nervous because HR is like my hero, and he was so wonderful and present. And Mike Imperioli.
What do you like about HR? What's that? Why is he your hero?
He PMA comes from the Bad Brains, Positive Mental Attitude.
Yeah.
He was the strongest, most exciting frontman I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
Best, tightest band. He's very soulful. He can use anger and love in the same burst,
And he's maintained a youthful spirit, too.
Yeah, and he's been through, he's had a hard life. He's a survivor. I survived. But as a kid, he was around here, and they were the best band when we were little kids. And it would, in our community, playing at A7, and we would look up to them. But they were intense. They were adults, and we were kids, and they were so good. I was just intimidated. And he would, speak about Rastafari with me, and it was all positive, but they were on another level. They would lend us their equipment, which was great, and we thought if we play on the real pro stuff, maybe we'll sound like them, but nah.
And wasn't like John Joseph? Do you know that guy?
Yeah, John Joseph.
He was like he loved HR. I always hear
yeah,
him
well, he
talk
was
about.
on the crew on the first tour of America.
Right.
He was in the road crew, went across the U.S. in a van with no windows and no air conditioning.
Yeah.
In the summer, they called it the slave ship or something, and they got to California and they just blew minds. And John then went on to form Blood Clot, which was mostly the crew of the Bad Brains road crew, and that was Blood Clot with him singing. And then he got in the Cro-Mags and did that for a long time, and now he does Cro-Mags. And then they did Blood Clot again with Todd Youth. So yeah, John's written books. A book on PMA, and he's also a book on vegetarianism called Meat is for Pussies.
I know. I respect him a lot in terms of his ultra marathon running or whatever he does.
He's like an Iron Man. Yeah,
he's unbelievable with that.
Yeah, he's been through a lot. He has another good book too. His whole life story, Life of a Cro-Magnon or something like that. But he's a neighborhood guy that I know since I'm a little kid, and he always is taking good information and using all his social media to try to make the world a better place.
PMA.
Yeah.
Back to HR. So tell me about Todd Youth. And Todd Youth was linked with him, right?
Yeah, Todd played with him. Well, Todd was a little kid, hence the name Todd Youth, that was in a band called Agnostic Front for a hot minute, then Warzone, and then Murphy's Law, which in the 80s were doing really great. They still do great, but they were touring with the Beastie Boys on that first tour, and they were signed to Profile Records. Run DMC was there, and Todd did that for a while, and he was this young kid that had these amazing guitar chops and kind of could do anything. So his career would go on after Murphy's Law. He had a band called Chrome Locust. Then he was in Danzig for a lot of years.
That's funny.
Then he went from Glenn Danzig to Glenn Campbell.
Nice.
It's like the only friend that I know from the hardcore scene that grew up in squats and, really was kind of an orphan kid.
Did he play with Glenn Campbell all the way up until the end?
Close to the end. He did that covers record, and he did
Wasn't
some tours.
He in D-Gen in the middle
He was in Degeneration. I left that out. I don't know why. Before Danzig. And then after Glenn Campbell, a few other projects, and then he was in my band, the St. Mark Social. So we played together twice. And I went to Europe my first time with Todd and D-Gen on the Green Day tour, and I'd never been, and we were roommates. And
First time in Europe.
Yeah, and I learned a lot from him. And
Where did you land first?
We landed in Belfast. Yeah, and we stayed at the most bombed hotel in the world, the Hotel Europa.
What year was it?
Maybe 98, 96.
And like that's before internet was really huge, right?
Oh yeah, you were away. You were on the road.
You were really on the fucking road then. Like
what
I
happened
remember,
on the road stayed on the road.
I remember when I first went to France before the internet, before you could just dial up your normal home entertainment thing. It was like really on a foreign country, even in France. There's 3 stations and they played just nothing but French speaking stuff in Paris. And then one station was hardcore pornography for some reason. But anyway, so
keep it home. I don't know. Keep it off the streets. But yeah, Todd was just a street kid, but he had such talent, and he was a hustler, and he could be trouble, but he also had a sweet heart about him. And people have different opinions, but in the end, we really miss him. And so what happened was,
what do you mean people have different opinions?
Like people think of like, oh, this guy was in all these bands and he was he had a dark side, or he got into drugs or this or that. But in the end, the guy was super talented. And so he played in my band, St. Mark's Social. And then after that, I believe he did a couple other projects with John Joseph. Oh, he played with Ace Frehley. He played with Motorhead. Wow. And the guy could just do anything. If we did like a covers night just for fun, he could become the songs and really just take on the personality of what that music was and bring it out. And then he OD'd 2 years ago.
I'm sorry, man.
In L.A. on fentanyl or something awful like that. And he'd been in the drug thing for a while, on and off.
On and off.
And it was heartbreaking because he had a
Young,
lot of kids.
47.
Yeah. And he had a spirituality that connected with Krishna in different times in his life. We would go to Krishna restaurants in Ireland and all over the place. And so his family decided to put his ashes at the Krishna tree in Tompkins Square Park, and then the rest at this holy river in India. So they took half the ashes to each place. So I wanted to give him a great memorial where we all grew up in A7, which is now Niagara, and his favorite band was the Bad Brains. So HR came very generously.
I was there. I came.
Yeah,
you invited me.
Dr. No.
Thank you.
And played those songs, Bad Brains songs, to send Todd off, and people spoke. It was really emotional, but really special. And we all went out to the tree and put his ashes out there. And so it was just his birthday, and I'd written a song called Todd Youth that was about, through his voice, about his last days on the planet and maybe where his soul is now. And I got HR to come and sing on it and give a little blessing into the song, and
that's
because
amazing.
He was at that, and so that's going to come out in August.
What are the lyrics? How did the lyrics go?
I was out of time and out of body on a Saturday night. My phone kept ringing, but my heart had stopped, and I really didn't want to go. I never had nothing. I never had much. I never had reason to tell you that I'd stay in touch. There's a line about I never say goodbye, it just ends, because Todd would leave your band sometimes. You wouldn't even know.
That gave me chills, man.
He wouldn't be in another band. He'd be in another band. You'd find out.
The next day.
You'd find out from somebody else. Like relationships, sometimes with people, they don't just say, hey, I'm bailing. They're just gone.
They can't,
They never say goodbye,
Irish
it just
goodbye?
ends.
They gypsy fade.
Yeah, gypsy faded.
But I don't want to give the whole song away, but it's a piece of it. But it's a tribute to my friend and to a friend of many, as a guy that touched a lot of people, and he was really sweet to the fans, and he loved to play guitar. This guy's whole life was to be playing that guitar, and even when he was really fucked up and strung out and such a mess, he still was good. It wasn't, we knew, and it sucked, but emotionally it did, but the guy always came through.
So you met his kids back in New York, or
yeah, well I knew the mother of his first kids in the neighborhood, Kate. She had a restaurant called Kate's Joint. She fed us a lot of vegetarian food.
Yeah, that was in the East Village, right?
Ellie and Abijah, and then he has a few kids, that have been around that are all special children, and I think that one of them is a musician and has a lot of talent, and I just think that recently his daughter, right in the middle of this pandemic and all this horror, his daughter had a kid. And they sent the photos around, so he would have been a grandfather. He would have loved that. And I'm looking at the photo,
it's him
and it's looks like little Todd, and
him.
She's making like a little finger, almost like giving everybody the finger. The photos. So that was like when you hear these nice things during these times, you take them, and he would be smiling on that.
That's nice, man.
Yeah.
One thing I love about your work is your detail to lyrics. I was wondering, who are some of your favorite inspirations lyric-wise, and I think you probably like the beats and stuff like that. But I love your detail with lyrics and that you paint stories with them. You want to
Big
talk about
influences
that, maybe.
would be, as a kid, Jim Croce, hearing that on the AM radio, like the stories of Leroy Brown and all that details in those songs that were very Chuck Berry-like, who's a great detailed lyricist and storyteller.
Bob Dylan inspiration there, I think.
Yeah. You take Chuck Berry and Allen Ginsberg, you probably get Bob Dylan or something. But and
true.
some other stuff, of course. But Joe Strummer, for sure, hands down. Bernie Taupin, those early Elton John albums, specifically, I always say Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. These beautiful melodic pop songs and these lyrics that were so dark and pointed about America and about love and sex and death.
I agree.
And
did you see that Elton John movie?
Rocket Man?
Yeah.
I liked it. It was kind of a love letter to Bernie. Which
I
is
loved it.
It made me want to write songs like, oh, shit, I got to up my game. Paul
acting,
Westerberg.
too.
Made me cry like a fucker, that movie. Anyway, Paul Westerberg.
Elvis Costello, and Graham Parker would be probably in that mix of people. Polystyrene from X-Ray Specs. But, you've produced records of mine, and we've had so much fun doing them. And I think you've seen the process where, for me, melody, it's like a Rorschach test where I'll start singing something spontaneously and with a melody. And sometimes those lyrics will be meaningful, but they're not finished, and I have to go in and say, what am I trying to say?
Yeah. And
then I'll have a notebook where I'm writing down a lot of ideas all the time, and sometimes the notebook will meet that wacky melody. You hear the Beatles yesterday, they said it was scrambled eggs at first. Scrambled, like things kind of, and you have to listen and feel like, well, what is this saying? But sometimes you want to go like, well, it's not saying that. I want to say something really sad with really happy melody, and sometimes that juxtaposition is cool too. But I always love to bounce. I overwrite. I'll write 7 verses for a 3-verse song, and I sat in my kitchen with you, and I do this with producers, and I'd be like, all right, Joseph, which verse do you like better?
Yeah, I like that.
And then we'll do that. And I did that with Lucinda, and to have your ear, that's a big part of hiring a producer in that way. So, you've seen it where I've had so many lyrics, and they were like, all right, you better got to commit to this. You can't have them all. And if they don't work out, spare parts into another song.
That's what I was gonna ask. Outtakes.
I mean, because they're already good lyrics, and then he'll write like a whole other set of lyrics, at least maybe another 2 sets.
But it's hard for me. I write in a chaotic way like that, where somebody might sit down and just go from beginning to end. That's it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do that on the lucky breaks, but other times it's the refining, and I can write melodies and chords all day and have songs, but I think I'm a decent lyricist, but I have to work hard at it.
I think you're a great lyricist.
Yeah.
I really do. I'm not blowing smoke.
Well,
I mean, you write, and particularly, actually, right from the fine art of self-destruction, but also like particularly lately, like when you put out this latest single has
Backstabber.
Great lines in it,
Yeah. Well, the autobiographical ones sometimes are easy. We're always trying to like make stuff poetic and have imagery, and sometimes if you just say the truth, like of your life when you're ready to do that, or it sometimes works. The first album was easy because I'd always been in bands, so it was a chance to write just for myself, and not be thinking I'm representing 4 other dudes. Yeah. This was like, so the first album was like it was like a real first album, even though
that was a big leap for you too, from D-Gen to that.
Yeah. But there are always people like me and my friends always listen to the lyrics, and it was, in punk and in hardcore, people put the lyrics on the back of jackets and on walls, and Joe Strummer's lyrics are on the wall of Niagara.
I know. I was filming them the other day. I was going to try to write a poem about it, but you
wouldn't be the first.
I'm sure. Bob Dylan's like, I think, no, Jack Kerouac said first thought, best thought. And then but then
I thought Michael Stipe said, I don't know, they all said,
a lot of people say first thought, best thought, but then Leonard Cohen came in and said second thought, best thought.
Well, I heard Leonard Cohen he takes a year to finish a song, he would say. Spend a year on one.
Yeah. So you're probably more in that kind of department, or do you sometimes write a song in 15 minutes and keep it just like that?
Rarely. No, I'm more in the tweaking.
More
and,
Leonard Cohen.
Crossing the T's, and dotting the I's. Yeah. And then sometimes the thing you had in 15 minutes you go back to, and you're like, the band is hooked on what I call the bullshit lyrics, But there is something great about singing over a microphone with a cool PA in front of the band or whatever that sometimes inspires you to come up with stuff, just having the people around. I think as artists that we really feed off of knowing that there's somebody listening or watching, or that there's a conversation, even if it isn't a direct one, but that someone will hear this, but we just need to do it, whether we get the feedback or not, I guess, you know.
So do you think rock and roll is the energy of rebellion?
I think it can be. I think rock and roll has also become the energy of very normal things, you know, like Broadway and School of Rock and commercials and, you know, kiddie parks and, you know, elevator music. It's become very normal, and punk rock as well. It's become a commodity, a fashion thing. It's lost maybe its danger, where a certain shirt at some point or a certain hairdo might have really gotten you some reaction. And I don't know how to do that, or, you know, so much with music maybe, but I think it can be, just like love, just like anything like that. Anything that, if it's done in the right way, can really grab people in and be revolutionary. I still, as corny as that sound, believe that brings people together. It's rhythm and a melody, and whether it's people gospel or slave singing or kids in a basement, bees stinging my nuts.
Murder hornets.
Murder hornets!
Stinging your nuts.
Malin murder hornets.
Well, maybe
here.
now, like with where we are now in the state of the world, the rock and roll rebellion will have a new significance.
You know, I always say when things are hard, you know, that art gets to be, you know, better, and people step up. And, you know, I imagine there's going to be a lot of songwriters that probably are already that have their pandemic lockdown anthem. But, you know, I think it's important. It's just how you do it, really. You know, how will it be good? Will it make sense? Is it needed? You know, when Bruce Springsteen put out The Rising after everything that happened 3 blocks from where we are,
yeah.
you know, it was comforting to a lot of people, or it brought people together to heal. So there's that. Healing is important, and you know, moving on too in some way, but not forgetting.
What's your take on the vaccine situation? Do you think, like, and the potential that it could become mandatory, like if they won't let you travel unless you get the vaccine, or those kind of things that you hear about?
Yeah, I don't think it should be. I mean, obviously we don't want to spread this, but in one way, if the vaccine came out like next week, that, you know, the world would be able to open back up again. I probably got a couple shots when I was a kid. I know I did.
Would you take it?
I don't take the flu shots.
Right. Would you take a mandatory Bill Gates
research
vaccine?
A lot about it. I don't, you know.
I think if you researched it, you probably wouldn't take it, bro.
Yeah. I feel that there's other side effects, you know.
Yeah.
And kids I've been reading, you know, autism and
diarrhea.
But you need to find as much information as you can and not drink the Kool-Aid and just go, you know. Years ago, I once talked to my grandfather and said, you know, about Kennedy, like, what do you think happened? And he's like, Oswald shot him, and that's what happened. And I loved my grandfather. He was kind of a liberal guy, but came from World War II, and he believed, you know, this is what it was. And as time goes on, if anybody looks at it, a young kid, and see that, well, then the guy that shot him, they shot him with no protection in a couple minutes after that, like that's long after. Like the whole thing is so whacked out. But, you know, so you could believe, all right, that's what happened, and Johnson became president and this and that, but there's so many more things, even if it isn't the extreme conspiracies that people might say, oh, that's so whacked out. But we're not getting the whole picture no matter what.
Absolutely.
And if you think you have faith in their politicians, then, you know, for the folks that believe in Donald Trump, and you look the way this man has behaved and represented us and handled himself just as a human being and in eloquence, or just even humanity and compassion, it's pretty wacky and upsetting and not comforting, at least to me. But, you know, I know that they can't give us everything, and they don't, and obviously they should, but you have to look other ways and try to make your own opinions. And that's what the music that we make and the people we have had around us and have always been that. John Lennon, you know, always been that. Lenny Bruce, always pointing out this other thing. You mentioned Ginsberg, you know. And if we just drink the Kool-Aid and go, that's what it is, you know, we'll be destroying this culture even more so.
Well, we were built on a spirit of rebellion. America was. I mean,
and seeking as much truth as possible. Americans as well. You know, that's we left. We want to be this place that's free. I mean, it started with a lot of bad shit, but
power corrupts, and it just does. And government is made out of people, and if you give other people all the power, that power corrupts. So it's like, and interesting that you bring up Kennedy, because that's when the whole thing of the CIA ushered in the sort of concept of conspiracy theorist about anybody that questioned that particular.
And you're a wacko conspiracy
theorist.
That
particular event, and it is true, and you know the rabbit hole is deep on that one, because during that time, I guess George Bush was the head of the CIA, so there's a lot of people that think everything happening now is all stemming from basically then now, and it's like about to all come to
a long con.
I don't know when it
it's all
started,
about
but
to
I
come
know
to a
that
head.
that's when a lot of
It's
people
kinda-
lost faith in
the government.
in the government after the Kennedy
Yeah.
assassination.
Yeah.
I know it broke a lot of hearts, and it also raised a lot of eyebrows to go like, what the hell's going on?
And then also, what about Building 7? Just saying.
No, wait. Before the Kennedy assassination was just in the Scorsese movie, like their explanation.
Oliver Stone.
No. What
No,
was
no, the
Oh, and
Irishman.
the
Irishman,
Irishman. In the
yeah.
Irishman, they gave
Yeah.
their take that the mob took him out.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
was
well, I
a
think he
whole
had a lot
other
of
take.
enemies, so I don't think he's
Yeah.
pissed off a lot of people. I think that was
And
pretty
Hoffa
clear.
and
Right.
what happened to Jimmy. There's tons of.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
it's all connected, and you see in the Oliver Stone film, or I have people are like, "Oh, I just read the Warren Report. That's all. That's the truth." But connections to Castro with what happened at Kennedy in New Orleans, and there's
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff that goes on behind closed doors that. And I just think who owns this stuff. I mean, that's the real. If you want to go further, and we're talking about it, but the people that own the pharmaceutical companies that spin this whole thing, that who owns the vaccine, whose money's that going to go to?
Right. And the other thing too is it's like it kind of comes down to like your faith in the and this gets into ropey territory for a lot of people, but your faith in God's like. The fact that your faith in God, the fact that we were created with this immune system, that if we built it, and like you mentioned my Instagram earlier, and like the sort of I promote this sort of health and taking care of yourself, and the idea that you can build up your immunity system to degrees that really protect you against these viruses that are swimming around us all the time anyway. Like again, I'm not a scientist, but we're full of viruses, and viruses are all around us all the time. So your body, your immune system is meant to like
Deal with it.
Yeah.
and you have to do things to cultivate that through fasting, through not eating things like high fructose corn syrup, through like processed foods and all that other stuff. Like you can and supplementing with like really good quality vitamins and all that, and it's like, to me, it's like if the government was really concerned about people, they would be promoting these kind of things, and there would be like programming on Netflix about like, hey, take care of yourself, don't eat processed sugar, don't eat the
Well, there's documentaries about that.
Okay,
but people
but
don't
what I
react
mean.
to it because they don't see an immediate.
And you
immediate
can build
cause and action.
You can build your immune system, and you really should. And if we look at
exercise,
probably the cases,
vitamin D,
the healthier
sunlight.
people maybe didn't get COVID and die, or didn't get it, or whatever. Maybe it'll hit many of us, but it seemed to prey on people that might have been obese or had diabetes or had pre-existing conditions.
Well, the average age of death is above the average age of death. Like the average age of death from this is older than the average age of death in general. As well.
Right. Well, whether it was made in a lab, or whether it happened from the wet market, which would be, we've been messing with this planet, we've been messing with animals. So if that, we've been not treating, the animal population with any kind of love, the earth, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
We've been just, pissing all over it, and so there's going to be a backlash in that way. That makes sense. We haven't respected our nature. We haven't. We take what we need, oil, everything, and I wouldn't put it past that, somebody would be messing around trying to come up with some kind of thing in a lab. Both of those situations would make sense to me.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know like that. I just know that like I wouldn't want to take a mandatory vaccine from somebody as controversial as Bill Gates. I mean, he's got, The wild thing is, if you want to go down a weird rabbit hole, go on his Instagram and go through and just like go on any post and look at the comments. The guy, there's more hatred leveraged at him in those comment sections than if it's like if Adolf Hitler had an Instagram account. Or Satan. It's really like on that level of just pure animosity aimed at this guy from thousands of people. And it's kind of like, what's going on where somebody creates that much animosity, and then we're supposed to just like blindly go like, okay, let me have the mandatory vaccine. It just doesn't make sense. It's like we're living in an episode of Black Mirror, and then some of like the patent numbers are like 06060. I mean, you can't make this shit up. It's like, is this for real? Like, what the hell is going on? Like,
and yet we're really, we're anxious and desperate. to be healthy, to get back to work, to get back to love, life, and so if they say, all right, well, the vaccine is the
carrot
thing
and
that's
the stick.
Well, but basically, like, the idea is, like, in terms of conspiratorial wise, the idea isn't that people are going to line up for the vaccine right now because they you know, we are where we're at and people have dealt with it how they've dealt with it, but the desperation will supposedly come when the second wave hits. Which is, you know, which is imminent apparently, and also already being predicted by Fauci and Bill Gates and stuff like that. So, which is also daunting.
Yeah.
You know. Thoughts?
Well, you know, you have to look back to see what does this all benefit. Who's going to benefit?
We got to sit it out for 2-3 more weeks, see what happens. The country's starting to open, New York's starting to open, and see if what we think is true. And you know,
Are you thinking about a bug out situation, like moving to upstate New York or anything like this, or having like have you thought of that? Because I know I have. Like, in terms of, I love the city, I don't want to leave, but I have definitely thought like, maybe it's time to have, you know, a cabin in the woods. Has that thought crossed your mind?
Well, you know, I think
you don't have to say it.
I'm going down with the ship. I think there was a movie called Harry and Tonto with Art Carney where they tore down his building and they just carried him out in a chair out of his lazy boy. He wouldn't leave the Upper West Side.
Is that the guy that was on The Honeymooners?
Yeah, but he won Best Actor at the Oscars in '74. Great film, Harry and Tonto. Paul Mazursky film. But yeah, I mean, that's how I feel now. You know, I'd like to get away. I miss being on the road. I'd love to go to a beach right now. I'd love to get off the corner where I live on Avenue A and kind of see some different things. Yeah. You know, so many things I'd love to do, but I'm kind of in a spot where I'm trying to figure out the next way to express my art and keep music going and finish my album and also really I feel a responsibility to the little music scene that I created down here and to the bars that, you know, and clubs that me and my friends put so much into to try to figure out what's going to happen. I'm not ready to just abandon it, but there'll be times where I'd love to go and figure out what else I would do. I don't know. This is all I've done my whole life.
I'll tell you what, if I have a bug out, I'm going to put a yurt in the yard and that'll be your yurt. You can have a yurt on my bug out ranch.
All right, there you go. Thanks, Joe.
So are you recording a new album now?
Well, I'm not doing anything because we're not allowed to be near each other. But we were supposed to be done by now, come out in the fall. But I guess everything is a lot of 2021. But we have about 60% of the new record done, and that song "Todd Youth" and "Backstabbers" are singles from that record. From Wicked Cool is the label, Little Steven's label.
Where are you recording? With Jeff again?
We record with Jeff Sanoff and
shout out Jeff
at Flux and at Renegade and a place called Studio G and Atomic. We did it in a whole bunch of places wherever there was time available in between tour dates.
Is it some of the outtakes from the last record too?
There's a couple songs that you would definitely remember, but a lot of it is stuff that I've had and stuff that was written. And then once you have a bunch of songs, I went on that Outlaw Country cruise and I, you know, loved it so much, but I used the time a lot to sit in the room and just write while I was at sea, and I wrote like another 10 songs. So we're trying to figure it out. You know, I go in with my process. I go with a whole bunch, and then we try to narrow it down, and hopefully it's not like too big.
Who's producing?
Right now, it's just been me and Derek Cruz. Yeah.
Okay.
Long time
driving
guitarist.
each other crazy.
You guys are good though. Yeah. Derek's great.
Yeah, he's great.
Great band too.
Yeah.
Randy playing drums and.
But with the situation in the music world where you might not be able to tour when it's time to put this album out, is that going to affect anything for you?
Well, it's going to affect me emotionally, physically, like in some ways, I guess. I think now, I don't know. I bought a bicycle. I'm going to have to start riding and singing to myself. But Pee-wee Malin. But I think that...
I can see that.
I think that, you know... It really, I mean, that's how we do it. We sell a lot of merch when we're out there. You know, the people go to record store. Like, we sell T-shirts. We connect with people. We build the story. We play with other artists. It will be terrible.
Right. So would you shelf it and wait, or?
Well, I don't have a set date because, like I said, I can't get in the studio to finish it because we're not allowed to gather in any kind of close proximity, 10 feet apart. I guess we could, but you know, those businesses aren't open, and I have been following, you know, the rules for the first time in my life, maybe. But yeah, I don't know. I want to get it out at some point and get on to the next thing. Us as artists, you don't want to sit on things forever. It gets stale. You want to get on to the next thought, the next feeling. And we already started by putting 2 singles out. So, I guess there's a lot of unknown, but got to keep moving forward. Like they say in that movie Annie Hall, like a relationship or anything, it's like a shark. It has to keep going forward or it dies. I feel like that's, the creative process.
What's your favorite film?
That's too hard. I don't know.
I know you love films, huh?
I'll give you 10.
Go ahead.
Chinatown.
Casablanca.
Dog Day Afternoon. Down by Law. Oh,
Down
boy.
by Law?
Yeah. Taxi Driver.
Who's in Down by Law?
Tom Waits and
oh, right.
John
Jim
Laurie.
That's Jim Jarmusch.
Roberto
right?
Benigni. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Roberto. Yeah, okay. They're in the prison together or jail.
Minnie and Moskowitz by John Cassavetes.
Uh-huh.
The Apartment, Shirley MacLaine and Jack Lemmon.
That's by Roman Polanski?
Billy Wilder.
Oh, Billy Wilder.
Yeah.
Close.
Am I at 9? What am
No,
I at?
you're at 7,
bro.
The In-Laws with Peter Falk and Alan Arkin, sorry. Let's say Broadway Danny Rose, Woody Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And I got one more.
The Matrix.
No. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Nice.
Rodney
John Candy.
Dangerfield?
No,
John
John
Candy.
Candy.
Yeah. Sorry, my bad.
Rest in peace.
My bad.
Steve Martin.
What do you like about film so much?
Rabbis in the Mist is my next film coming out.
Yeah, you should make a film.
Use the Schwartz.
You should make a film about this time in New York.
I know.
What do you like about film so much? How come you're such a film buff?
As a kid, I went to the movies, and that was a way to learn about the world. My parents weren't around. I snuck into theaters. The 70s was a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Great, underdog kind of people that were beaten down, post-Vietnam, people just trying to find a way to get through life that come from tough situations. It inspired me. I learned about love and characters and trouble, and it's just a little bit of an escape and a great entertainment. But I love acting and shots and storytelling in that form as an edge, a slice of life, and inspires me to want to write songs. And some of my favorite songs are like little movies, like Racing in the Streets by Bruce Springsteen, or Pocahontas by Neil Young, or
or the whole Nebraska album by
the whole
Bruce
Nebraska
Springsteen.
album. Yeah, so
that one drives me crazy. I listened to that the other day.
It's great. 4-track Tascam recorder.
Most of it's like acoustic solo, but then sometimes he does little overdubs, background vocals.
Yes.
One of them's got like bells on it or whatever,
Well, it's like a mandolin back then.
Yeah, and a mandolin on Atlantic City or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fantastic. Well, cool, dude. What do you think?
I just wanted to ask you just about Todd. Just one other question that I was curious about. When you guys were growing up together, I'm assuming you were both into hardcore and listening to that stuff. And then which one of you was the first to really be in like a hardcore band and sort of like make it?
Well, there's different things. I had a hardcore band that Todd wasn't in called Heart Attack. And I don't know if we made it. We ended by 1984. Did 3 records and toured the country and played, on great bills with all those cool bands. We put out the first single, I guess that might have been, like God Is Dead is sometimes known as the first New York hardcore single. But Todd definitely went on to, it was the first friend of mine, him and Jimmy G, to be on a tour bus that pulled up on Avenue A. And like he had the tour bus and they all went out on the Beasties tour, or they were out with the Chili Peppers and they were, going around the world touring with Iggy Pop and like the Ramones. I mean, Todd definitely entered into another level with Murphy's Law that I wouldn't get into until Degeneration. So when he came into my band, I learned a lot from him about the road, about really about travel and other places and etiquette of carrying yourself.
What'd you learn?
Different things you need to bring when you go into these different countries. How to communicate in a crazy bar. Todd and Jimmy had things like if you were too drunk and you're in some strange town and you need to get out of there and you had to signal your friend across the bar talking to a girl, you just do this. I mean, like, let's cut out. Like, let's go.
Oh, right.
And if you were really bombed and you needed help, you'd go.
What's that mean?
I'm fucked up. I'm like, carry me out of here.
Yeah,
I'm gaga. I'm about to go. I'm about to drop. Things to pack. Just how to do things. Some sanitary things.
Right.
Cool. Well,
set up a tour bus. Set up a dressing room. just to sustain yourself. It's like camping or the military. You got to be ready. You need the tools in your bat belt.
Yeah. Well, how can people? Let's promote this idea about people talking to their legislators again too. Like, what was this post?
Yeah, Save Our Stages.
Save Our Stages.
I think it is.
Yeah. Tell your legislators. How do you say that word?
Legislators.
Legislators.
Yeah.
It's a weird word for me. Tell your legislators to save independent music venues. Your voice matters. What and where do they go for that?
It should be.
Or they just tell their legislators?
No, there's a click in. It's an easy sign in.
Oh, there's a click in. Okay.
SaveOurStages.com or something. Let me.
SaveOurStages.
Can't remember all these things. I should have had a cue card here.
And Backstabber is available on YouTube to listen, and is it on iTunes?
And support music venues
and musicians.
We need them. We need them around. We need art. We need beauty. We need the spirit of rebellion. We need Jesse Malin.
Thank you for coming to our hot box, Jesse.
Thanks, Jesse.
I like the hot box. I started to cool down to it. And I get stoned.
It's not bad, right?
It's great to see you guys, even at a distance. And thanks for doing this, Joe.
Man.
Doing all these.
Yeah.
Ehud, thank you.
Thank you for everything you've been doing, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, and let's hope all your clubs get to open soon, and that you don't.
Yeah,
go out
to be
of business
dancing on the
over
bar
there.
and throwing organic Twinkies at each other.
Let's hope so. All right, everybody.
Thank you.
Much love. Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Come to Where I'm From. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated.